of the Dr. Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series. Last month, on the 27th of November, the Department of History and the members of the HSMLS group had organized the first offline lecture at the college premises successfully. We had as the speaker for the month Dr. Kamal Chandra Soikia. He is an associate professor in the Department of English, Dr. BKB College, Purani Godam. Therein, we have come again with our fifth lecture of the series. And we have amidst us today Dr. Tilok Thakuria. He is the teacher in charge of the Department of History and Archaeology, Nehu Tura campus. We have with us today Dr. Hemlata Sharma. She is the Vice Principal of Moregaon College, the coordinator of the lecture series, and the head of the Department of History, Moregaon College, Mr. Deepak Kolita. The family members of Dr. Himangsu Sharma, members of the HSMLS group, faculty members of Moregaon College, non-teaching staff, students, and participants from other institutions. Our principal sir couldn't join us today because of his prior commitments elsewhere, but he has sent his best wishes. With that positive note, I would now request Dr. Hemlata Sharma, the Vice Principal of Moregaon College, to deliver the welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Suman. Honorable Chief Patron of Lecture 5, Dr. Himangsu Sarma Memorial Lecture Series, Professor Jogan Chandra Kolita, sir. Honorable Distinguished Speaker, Dr. Tilok Thakuria, sir. Assistant Professor, Department of History and Archaeology, Nehu Tura Campus. Respected Organizing Committee members, Mr. Deepak Kolita, Coordinator, HOD, Department of History. Dr. Sardosri Chaudhuri, Assistant Professor in the Department of English, Moregaon College. Mr. Nikhil Kumar Deka, Assistant Professor, Department of History. Mr. Pradip Soika, Assistant Professor in the Department of Mathematics. Ms. Suman Das, Assistant Professor in the Department of History. Mr. Raj Ballabh Nath, Assistant Professor in the Department of History. Mr. Ambarish Kaushik, Assistant Professor in the Department of Commerce. Mr. Janmejoy Tamuli, Assistant Professor in the Department of Mass Comm. Technical Coordinators, Mr. Bulbul Das, Assistant Professor, Computer Application, and Mr. Jayanto Das, Assistant Professor in the Department of Geography. IPC Coordinator, Dr. Ranjit Kolita. Respected professors from various institutions, respected researchers from various institutions, respected participants, and respected family members of Dr. Sardosri Chaudhuri, and my dear students. A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of the principal, Moregaon College family, and Department of History, Moregaon College, I welcome all of you to Lecture 5 of Dr. Himangsu Sarma Memorial Lecture Series organized by Department of History, Moregaon College on the topic Postmodernism, Colonial Discourse and Archaeology of Northeast India. I think it is one of the important and interesting topic. It is a topic to be emphasized a lot. এইখিনিতে মই শ্ৰদ্ধাৰে প্ৰয়াত ডক্টৰ হিমাংশু শৰ্মাক সুঁৱৰিছো। 2006 চনত সেই সময়ৰ ইতিহাস বিভাগৰ মুৰব্বী অধ্যাপক ডক্টৰ দেবেন কলিতা ডাঙৰীয়াই মোক তেওঁলোকৰ এজন নতুন সেই সময়ত জইন কৰিছিল ডক্টৰ হিমাংশু শৰ্মা মোক চিনাকি কৰি দিছিল। সুদৰ্শন এই যুৱকজনে তেওঁৰ নম্ৰ আৰু বিনয়ী ব্যৱহাৰেৰে মোক আৰম্ভণিতে যথেষ্ট প্ৰভাৱিত কৰিছিল। লগতে পিছৰ সময়ত তেওঁৰ যিখিনি এক্টিভিটিজ বা দেখা পাইছিলোঁ বিভিন্ন কলেজৰ এজ এ গেমছ ইনচাৰ্জে হওক অথবা তেওঁ কৃষ্ণকান্ত সন্দিকৈ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ তেওঁৰ সমন্বয়ক হিচাপে হওক এই বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্ৰত তেওঁ কি কৰিছিল তেওঁৰ কাৰ্যকলাপৰে অকল মৰিগাঁও কলেজে নহয় গোটেই মৰিগাঁও জিলাতে তেওঁ এক প্ৰভাৱ পেলাবলৈ সক্ষম হৈছিল। গুৱাহাটী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ পৰা গোল্ড মেডেলিষ্ট এই যুৱকজনে 2008 চনত ইতিহাস বিভাগৰ মুৰব্বী অধ্যাপক হিচাপে তেওঁ ইতিহাস বিভাগৰ মুৰব্বী অধ্যাপক হয় আৰু তেওঁ বিশেষকৈ যিটো তেওঁৰ মই শ্ৰদ্ধাৰে কৰিছোঁ, তেওঁ মৰিগাঁও মহাবিদ্যালয়, কৃষ্ণকান্ত সন্দিকৈ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়, তেওঁ গোটেই অসমৰ ভিতৰতে আটাইতকৈ উৎকৃষ্ট অনুষ্ঠান হিচাপে প্ৰমাণিত কৰিছিল। সেই সময়ত গোটেই অসমৰ ভিতৰতে আমাৰ কৃষ্ণকান্ত সন্দিকৈ ইউনিভাৰ্চিটিৰ ষ্টুডেণ্টছৰ সংখ্যা আটাইতকৈ বেছি আছিল। এই ষ্টুডেণ্টছসকলে তেওঁক ভগৱানৰ দৰে ভাল পাইছিল, ইমানেই তেওঁৰ এটা ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰী হওক শিক্ষকৰ ওপৰত এক প্ৰভাৱ আছিল। যি কি নহওক, তেওঁ অকল মৰিগাঁও মহাবিদ্যালয় নহয়, তেওঁ মৰিগাঁও জিলাৰ বিভিন্ন সামাজিক সাংস্কৃতিক বিভিন্ন অনুষ্ঠানৰ সৈতে জড়িত আছিল আৰু এই জিলাখনৰ আৰ্থ সামাজিক উন্নতিৰ বাবে তেওঁ বিভিন্ন প্ৰকাৰে চেষ্টা চলাইছিল। তাৰে এটা প্ৰয়াস আছিল অনন্য নামৰ তেওঁৰ যিটো NGO তেওঁ প্ৰতিষ্ঠা কৰিছিল। তাৰ লগতে বহু সময়ত তেওঁ নিজৰ আৰ্থিক অনুদানেৰে তেওঁ মৰিগাঁও জিলাৰ বানপানী পীড়িত ৰাইজেই হওক অথবা কোনোবা বৃদ্ধাশ্ৰমেই হওক, এনেকুৱা বিভিন্ন অনুষ্ঠানক তেওঁ সাহায্য প্ৰদান কৰিছিল। আৰু তাৰেই চাগৈ স্বীকৃতি হিচাপে তেওঁৰ এই অকাল মৃত্যুত মৰিগাঁও জিলাৰ সমূহ ৰাইজে বিভিন্ন অনুষ্ঠানেৰে মৰিগাঁও চাৰিআলি হওক অথবা অন্যান্য অনুষ্ঠানত বন্তি প্ৰজ্বলনৰ সমাহাৰেৰে তেওঁৰ প্ৰতি কৃতজ্ঞতা যাচিছিল। মই 1982 চনৰ পৰা মৰিগাঁৱৰ স্থায়ী বাসিন্দা আৰু এই সময়ছোৱাত মই ক'ব পাৰোঁ ডক্টৰ হিমাংশু শৰ্মাৰ প্ৰতি মৰিগাঁৱৰ ৰাইজে বা ছাত্ৰ সমাজে যি শ্ৰদ্ধা জনালে সেয়া হয়তো মৰিগাঁও জিলাৰ খুব কম সংখ্যক মানুহে পাইছে। যি কি নহওক, ইতিহাস বিভাগৰ অধ্যাপিকাসকলে তেওঁলোকে তেওঁৰ প্ৰতি শ্ৰদ্ধা জনাই এলানি বক্তৃতামালা অনুষ্ঠান 2021 22 আগষ্টৰ পৰা আৰম্ভ কৰিছে আৰু ইতিমধ্যে কেইবাটাও এনেকুৱা অনুষ্ঠান হৈ গৈছে। আজি পঞ্চমটো অনুষ্ঠান। মই অন্তৰেৰে এই অনুষ্ঠানটোৰ প্ৰতি এই অনুষ্ঠানটোৰ সাফল্য আজি কামনা কৰিছো। তাৰ লগতে here I would like to offer my heartful gratitude to Professor Jogen Chandra Kolita sir and also our speaker Dr. Tilak Thakuria sir for offering their valuable time to us. And also I offer my heartful gratitude to all of you who are present in today's program. Thank you all. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. We'll now proceed to the next activity. There is a slight change in our program schedule that was circulated. The next activity that we'll proceed to is actually responses from the family, and for that we have with us Dr. Sharda Chaudhary. She is the assistant professor of the Department of English, Morigaon College, and also the wife of Dr. Himangsu Sharma. I request ma'am to speak a few words. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, your mic is muted.
Thank you, Suman. Hope I'm audible. A very good evening to everyone. Respected Vice Principal, Morigaon College, Dr. Hemantata Sharma Madam, esteemed speaker of the 5th lecture of Dr. Himangsu Sharma Memorial Lecture Series, Dr. Tilak Thakuria sir, Assistant Professor, Department of History and Archaeology, Nehu Tura Campus. Respected colleagues, honorable guests, participants across various disciplines, and dear students. At the outset, I express my sincere gratitude to the college authority and to the Department of History, Morigaon College, for planning and organizing this lecture series in fond memory of my husband, Himangsu Sharma. As I had said in one of the earlier lectures of this lecture series, that some souls are too good for this world, and so they leave. is known by his deeds. So Himangshu is not only an academician and a teacher, but in his short span of 43 years of his life, he has discharged several responsibilities in the college as an employee, as a teacher, and also as a responsible citizen, as Dr. Hemlata Sharma Madam has pointed out. He was the coordinator of Krishnakanta Handiki State Open University, Morigaon College Study Center for a period of 10 years. He was the unit secretary of Morigaon College Teachers Unit from 2013 to 2015. He was the IUMS coordinator, the head of the Department of History, and he was also a member of the syllabus committee, CBCA syllabus committee for Guwahati University, Department of History, Guwahati University. And he played a very instrumental role in drafting the SSR for assessment and accreditation by NAT in the year 2019 for the college. He is the founder of Ananyo, an NGO, a non-governmental organization which has rendered yeoman service to the society. So no matter how much one goes on talking and speaking of him and whatever he has done in his short span of life, one cannot exhaust his essence. And that is how I think one journeys beyond mortality. Under his initiative, the NGO worked to help the erosion-stricken people of the district by paying examination fees of such children who were unable to afford money. He also started the spade work for promoting tourism in Morigaon, helping poor students from government schools with educational aids, books, test papers, dictionaries, which helped them in their matriculation examination. Uh, the NGO also worked towards empowering women weavers by providing raw materials for weaving gamusas, and not only that, it also arranged for selling of the finished product in the market. Uh, Again, in the year 2020, when he was suffering from that undiagnosed fever, that undiagnosed disease, which remained undiagnosed all through, nevertheless, he didn't stop from rendering his services to the society. He provided sanitation items to places where such things were scarce as a preventive measure against COVID-19. And that he did at an individual level, not through the NGO. But in spite of everything, he always had all the time in this world for us, for me and my daughter, who is now 6 years old. So I sincerely hope that this lecture series becomes a channel of knowledge dissemination through the wonderful lectures that have been arranged so far and will be arranged in future. And this is how we would love to commemorate Himangsu as a disseminator of knowledge. Through his deeds, through his words, through his presence itself, he has spread fragrance to the society. He never sought any rewards for whatever he did for others. Such a type of a person is he. So last but not the least, I once again express my thankfulness to all the organizers, to the students, to today's speaker. Thank you so much, Dr. Tilak Thakuria sir, for accepting this invitation, and to all the participants who are a part of this lecture series. And as I always wind up by saying, in today's lecture too, I would like to wind up in a similar manner by saying that like the phoenix rising from its ashes, may this lecture series too be a witness to the rising of Himangsu. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed always a pleasure. It is always indeed a pleasure hearing about Himangsu sir from you. Moving ahead, we have the next activity, which is the introduction to the resource person. And for that, we have Mr. John Major Damuli. He is a member of the HSMLS group and an assistant professor of the Department of Mass Communication. I request sir to deliver the introduction to the resource person speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Suman ma'am. I, Janvijay Tamali, on behalf of the Morika College fraternity and the Department of History, Dr. Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series, would like to have the opportunity to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Tilak Thakuria, Assistant Professor, Department of History and Archaeology, NEHU, Tura campus. His specialization is in prehistoric archaeology, early Iron Age technology and archaeology of India, early historic urbanization of Eastern India, ethno-archaeology, archaeology and cultural studies of Northeast India, and he also has received Dr. Malti Nagar Award of Ethno-Archaeology for the research on topic and ethno-archaeological study of shell-fishing and lime manufacturing technique at Manika Patna, Orissa. He has to his credit numerous articles and publications. One is Rock Art Heritage of Northeast India, published by the IGNCA, and the second is the Indian Beads History and Technology, published by Infinity Foundation University. He is also a life member of Indian Society and Prehistory and Quaternary Studies, also life member of European Society for Art and Archaeology. Very good and glad to have you, sir, with us. And now I am handing over the online platform to you, sir. All over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for introducing our resource person. Moving on to the technical session, we have with us Dr. Tilak Thakuria, Assistant Professor, Department of History and Archaeology, NEHU Tura campus. And he is going to speak on the topic, Postmodernism, Colonial Discourse, and Archaeology of Northeast India. Sir, I request you to begin with your technical session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Suman. Honorable Vice Principal, Dr. Hemlata Sarmah Baidu, and Proyato Dr. Himangsu Sarmah's সহধর্মিনী, উপস্থিত মোৰ ইমান অসমীয়াত কৈ অভ্যাস নাই, গতিকে অলপ ফকুজা লাগি যায়, তথাপিতো মই মানে চেষ্টা কৰি যে অসমীয়াত অলপ কৈছে ক'বলৈ। উপস্থিত শিক্ষকসকল মৰিগাঁও কলেজৰ আৰু যিসকলে অনলাইন বৰ্তমান প্ৰগ্ৰামত অংশগ্ৰহণ কৰি আছে, মই নিজকে বহুত সৌভাগ্যৱান বুলি অনুভৱ কৰিছো। এনেকুৱা এজন বহুমুখী প্ৰতিভাধাৰী ব্যক্তিৰ স্মৰণত এটা যিটো বক্তৃতা আৰম্ভ কৰা হৈছে, আৰু সেই বক্তৃতালম্বক মোৰ আৰ্কিঅলজিৰ ওপৰত যিখিনি জ্ঞান আছে বৰ্তমানলৈকে, সেই জ্ঞানখিনি শ্বেয়াৰ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে আমন্ত্ৰণ কৰাৰ বাবে মই অতি সুখী। মই চেষ্টা কৰিম যাতে I will try my best that I can give my best to show respect to a person like Dr. Himangsu Sarmah. I have never met him, but I have heard him from Kulip. He once he told me about him, how he was, about Himangsu Sarmah's activity and the personality. So what I realized is that মানুহ এই পৃথিৱীত নাথাকিলেও মানুহৰ কৰ্মৰাজি থাকি যায়, আৰু মই ভাবো ডক্টৰ হিমাংশু বৰুৱাৰ যিটো হিমাংশু শৰ্মাৰ যিটো কৰ্মৰাজি, সেই কৰ্মৰাজি আমাৰ সকলোৰে মাজত থাকি যাব, আৰু আমি সেই কৰ্মৰাজি থাকে if we don't remember those, I think we have to remember his work, whatever he has done so far, because such kind of wonderful person as the family members itself and the vice principal has already explained. So we have to remember his work, and we hope that though not Himangsu Sarmah itself, but somebody will come up with his quality in future from Morika College itself. So now, I understand the gravity of this lecture series. So I know I generally speak on my work on the stone jars of Northeast India, or maybe sometimes archaeology of Orissa and Maharashtra. But here I have selected this topic called postmodernism, colonial discourse, and archaeology of Northeast India. So archaeology of Northeast India is around 150 years old. Academic archaeology as academic discipline in Northeast India. And we have to archaeology as academic discipline started with during the colonial period itself. Before that, we have some some work on mention about archaeological remains. Even we find in Human Science Report. Even we find in Ahom Buranges the reconstruction of construction and reconstruction of Kamakhya temple, etc., etc. Those are actually not academic archaeology in real sense. Those are just kind of note whatever would happen, whatever happened in past. So now here, archaeology as an academic discipline started during the colonial time. So here, as we all know, that colonialism is a huge debate whether it was a bliss or a torture to the colonized area. So they say that no, it is a bliss for the area where for the area where it was colony was established, and some says that it was kind of torture to the local people of that area. So that is power politics, but how academics also influenced by this colonized power that in English literature is already in literature and philosophy already they have discussed in depth. Now archaeology is not also differ from that. How yeah, colonial power has used different disciplines as a tool of power to control and establish their political power and change of socio economy of colonized area. So now here, in Africa, there are lots of work has been done. How archaeologists, colonial archaeologists, contributed to occupy the area, to help the colonizer to occupy the area. And in India, we have some small work, not many. We can find some work of Himangsu and then the work of Dilip Chakraborty, where they have mentioned that how the colonial archaeologists, the truth they have constructed about the past of India is not real truth. It's not truth. Actually, they have constructed the truth about our past just to help the colonizer. Now, in case of Northeast India, we don't find that much of work done on impact of colonial archaeology. So here I will try to see some of the papers of colonial period, that how colonial discourse has been started. And as we all know that in colonial archaeology analysis, discourse is very important. How colonial discourse helped help the colonizer to establish the colonies. Anyway, so there are three parts I will discuss. I will discuss about. I will give my lectures. First is that colonial discourse. What is colonial archaeology, and then colonial discourse, and then the archaeology of Northeast India. Then I will come that how we should go, the situation of postmodernist approach in archaeology of Northeast India. But so far there is no postmodernist approach in archaeology of Northeast India. But still we are in modern and pre-modern approach of archaeology in Northeast India. But I will highlight at the end that why we should move out from that now, that pre-modern and modern approach, and we should come to a postmodernist approach. So I will share my presentation. Yeah. Okay. How to share this? But just hold on for 1 minute.
Sure, sir.
It is a tab, right? Or
yes,
a window? Huh?
There's a tab there.
A tab, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why I cannot see my presentation?
Share screen বুলি এটা option আহি আছে নেকি?
That I'm doing it, but I'm not able to see my presentation here.
Okay.
Wait. Maybe I have to save it. Can you see? Oh, okay. I think it is there, huh? Or it is. Something is there?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, it will be shared now. It will be shared now.
Okay. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
Yes,
yes,
sir, it
sir.
is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh, what is my voice is echoing?
Yeah, it's echoing. You need to, I think, mute your other.
So you
No,
need to
no,
mute one of the devices if you're using two devices.
Yes.
no,
নহয় ছাৰ, আপুনি নিজৰ মাইকটো মিউট কৰিলে, সেইটো মাইক মিউট কৰিব লাগিব নেকি?
Okay, I'm back, but I think I'm doing some mistake. Hello?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can't see the screen now, though.
Yeah, but first come your entire screen, a window, a tab. So when I'm saying a window, all my screen is coming where it comes double. And when I say tab,
Okay.
No, so do the entire screen, I think. You need to
Yeah,
share
do the entire screen and
the
then bring
entire
that
screen.
in front.
Yes.
okay, see, when I say entire screen, everything is coming, not okay.
So it will come. You have to open your presentation, sir.
Yeah,
You
it is.
close the other windows that might be open. You just open the presentation, then the entire screen will show only the presentation.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, yeah, I don't know why.
It's completely fine.
So many times I have done, but I don't know.
Technical glitch happens at the end moment.
Actually, my PPT I cannot see here. That is the problem.
Oh,
Okay, maybe can you give me 1 minute, okay? Because I think I have saved it in Keynote. That is why maybe it is.
sure, sir. Sure. It's okay.
Oh God. Okay, see, when I say entire screen, no, yeah, that is also my PPT comes, but along with that, other thing also comes. Okay, I think I will go ahead without showing the PPT. Okay, instead of wasting time. Hello, Suman.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
I think instead of wasting time, let me talk like this only. Okay. So first, we'll discuss about colonial archaeology. What is colonial archaeology? Colonial archaeology, actually, there are many definitions about colonial archaeology, but one of that I like to quote is that, there's Osterhelm in 2006. He says that colonialism implies control through people of another culture. It is a relationship between lords and the servants in which the historical self-development of a whole society is stolen, and controlled by foreigners and direct to the interest, mainly economic and colonial lords. So here, what we see that when colonial power take over that particular area, they try to dominate whole area, not only the land, but the politics, the economics, the society, everything they try to control. And the relationship between the colonizer and colonized is that, one is the taker, one is the receiver. The receiver sometimes unwillingly also they have to receive, or by force they have to receive. If they don't receive, they remain segmented. So now there are many archaeologists who actually also support colonial archaeology. For example, the archaeologist called B.M. Fagan, who, while he was writing 200 years of archaeology in Africa, he actually denounced all the critiques of colonialism and colonial archaeology. And he says, instead, he said that, you know, um, colonial powers indeed encourage the growth of anthropology and archaeology in colonized areas. So, in a way, he's also correct, because in the area when, the colonizer established their colony, they also start exploring the cultural life ways, social life ways, and all the minerals, everything they try to explore. In that process, they discover and then bring those things in the academic world. That is how most of the unknown things of a part colonized area for the Europeans, for the Westerners, come to the academic world, and that is how they say that this is we that is being discovered in a particular colonized area. Whereas the locals who are living in that area already, they are aware about their surroundings, their resources, their culture, their society. Only thing is that as a binary opposites, only the Euro-Westerners, they are not aware about this. When they have come this area and they started documenting those, and they tried publishing those things in the academic journals, and writing in a form of books for the Western readers and the Western readers, and that is how they try to narrate or try to explain the colonized area. So actually, Fagan's reply was in response to the critiques of colonial archaeology. According to the critiques of colonial archaeologists interpreted colonized cultures as a static. That is as usual. All the colonized archaeologists, even the colonial writer, they try to narrate the area or culture, or a particular area where they have established colonial static cultural kind of and projected culture of colonized area as inferior, or to promote the disassociation of the past from the present, to justify the cultural inferior of the present, and thus smoothed the path for the cultural superior to legitimize the culturally inferior. So this is what actually, as a whole the colonial, either colonial archaeologists or colonial writers, they 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 actually try to do. I think the best example, those who are in English literature, maybe they will know about that novel called Heart to Darkness by Conrad. So colonial archaeologists have shown the culture of colonized areas in a pejorative fashion, as commonly treating them as a uncivilized, semi-civilized, unchanging people with an unchanging technology. Here, these are relative terms. Civilization is a relative term. What is civilized for me, it may not civilized for you. But when you come with the idea from Western idea, you try to find the colonized area as uncivilized, because that is a policy also of the colonizer or the colonial writers, to establish that particular people of culture of that particular area, so either uncivilized or semi-civilized or unchanging, people of that area as unchanging. And that is how the colonizers they try to change the setup of that particular area, either social, political, or cultural. So next, they sometimes goes such a way that their propaganda is so abusive now sometimes. For example, if you see that one archaeologist, colonial archaeologist called Jan Mays, when she was writing about the megaliths of Tondidora in Africa, she wrote in a way that her writing was so insulting to the people of that particular area. She has assumed that people who are naked, half naked, nothing to have, nothing to eat, and their only primary goal is to reproduction, how their ancestor can build such a big kind of impressive megalithic monument. That is how they try to disassociate present from the past of the colonized area, and that is how they try to prove that what superior past you have, actually you are deassociated from there, and now you are inferior. And that is what the tendency of writing, uh, uh, that is the tendency of colonial writer, even colonial archaeologists. Now, at times they are so optimistic, opportunistic, that they project appropriations. For example, when Wheeler, who was excavating Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, he even did not take time to give this theory that Mohenjo-daro, that Harappan Valley civilization is not a outcome from the Indian soil itself. Actually, it is you know and it is from outside, and also the decline of this Harappan civilization due to the Aryan invention itself. So if we consider the past of the colonial archaeologists, most of them were administrative officers, talented, who usually take an all-absorbed vacation and rarely trained archaeologists. Because when Napoleon Bonaparte, he has taken his expedition, he has taken a group of scholars along with him, and these scholars, they have narrated the past as they have understood, not they have tried to understand the culture of that particular area, but what they have understood, that is how they try to represent it. So here is all these archaeologists, colonial archaeologists, they are not trained archaeologists. They are mainly the administrator. They're deputed in particular regions, and their free time they try to explore, they try to document, and they try to give interpretation about the past of that particular area where they are held up for administrative job. They are an adventurers who travels to exotic places to look for traces of the material culture of the past. And here, generally the women do not generally play a significant role in their quest. Only the male dominate kind of quest. Only the male, they will go for a deep jungle, they will explore. Always a local helper will go with them, and local will narrate them what is there, and then they will write and rewrite about a particular area. Women is like, even if women company also, it is there till to the camp, not to the actual to the field. So often, this is not my statement. This is a feminist archaeologist called McClintock in 1997. She has analyzed that how the gender biasness was there in the colonial archaeology itself. So this is the work of McClintock, who has mentioned about this, that women do not generally play a significant role in this colonial quest of past. Often a loyal indigenous guide comes to all these colonial archaeologists. They will not go by themselves with a systematic planning of exploration. What will happen is that a local guide, indigenous guide, who in fact already knows the presence of their past in their surrounding. But this indigenous guide will take this Western archaeologist, or maybe evangelist or ethnographer, whatever you say, to that area, and suddenly he will claim that he has discovered something new, and that will get published somewhere, and then they will claim that this area. The archaeologist becomes acquainted with other local people as well. Despite this contracts Despite this context, the life stories of colonial archaeology generally confirm the colonial gaze on the prehistoric past of colonial societies as lost worlds, as the lost world waiting to be discovered by the Westerners. So that is how they try to project once they go to visit with the indigenous guide, and they discover the past of or remains of a particular area. That is how they try to project, like kind of Indiana, South from Indiana Jones kind of movie. So, and thus the social outsider to public hero. So now these Western colonial archaeologists who are actually outsider to that particular area, now they will become a hero of that particular area, because he is social outsider to a public hero, because we try to we appreciate him because he has discovered the past, who is lying beside us, surrounding us, but we do not know. But he has discovered it, and he has did research, and he has published, he has write on it. So that is how the whole system of colonial kind of thing works. So now John Evans pointed out that archaeology was excluded from the Federation of Science. Actually, during this the age of enlightenment, era of enlightenment, this archaeology was excluded from the Federation of Science. So here, these archaeologists, they have tried their best in early 18th centuries that to bring this thing to bring archaeology as a scientific discipline. In that, what they have done, that they started writing about archaeology, discovery of past and discoveries about the past and prehistory of particular area in illustrated journals, which they call as a scientific and a scientific knowledge. And the knowledge acquired and constructed about the past was considered scientific. So that is how they tried to bring this knowledge about the past of colonized area as in a scientific framework. But the fact is that the new knowledge gathered about the past under colonialism promoted linear advancement, and thus we see interpretation and connections with and migration with different parts. So here, what happened is that this what they call is scientific truth about the past. Here, they actually try to bring the concept of cultural inferior and cultural superior. They are always try to bring whenever they're dealing with the past of a particular colonized area, they always bring this theory of migration and influence. They do not try to see the origin of a culture or richness of a culture from that particular area itself. They always try to bring the influence from Western influence to that particular area, or influence from the other superior area. So the idea indeed helped to legitimize the past culture of colonized areas as a result of connections, migration, thus disassociating from the present inferior culture of colonized areas. So here is the agenda. You have to deal with the past, rich past of a particular area in a way, so that you can project that present inferior culture is disassociated from the past superior culture of that particular area. So indeed, colonial archaeology till the 20th century has been a eloquent example of colonial discourse. Now, what is colonial discourse? It is the Foucault, Michel Foucault, who has described about discourse, and then in the Edward Said's Orientalism, the book Orientalism, he has used this technique of colonial discourse to see how the Occident has seen the Oriental, and how they have tried to construct about the society culture about the Orient. So, as per the Foucault's definition, knowledge is defined by a regime of truth and regulated by the relation of force and power. Here, power is very important to construct knowledge. So, keeping this in mind, Edward Said defined colonial discourse as a tool of Western powers that produces knowledges about the non-Western cultures under control. So here is an important point. That means whole concept of colonial. If you go through all this theory or isms, what about this colonial discourse theory, what you'll understand is that this is all these colonial archaeologists. They have worked for the colonizers. They have documented the history of particular colonized area just to create a path for colonizers to extend their power. The situation that Foucault narrate as it is in discourse that power and knowledge are joined together. So here, both have to join together to conquer and extend your presence. Thus, control over the knowledge, the way it is presented to know is a construct of knowledge to legitimize the power. Therefore, colonial discourse, as the critiques of colonialism say, is a discourse that serves to justify the Western power over the colonized. So here, it is like, it is the ruling power that construct knowledge as the truth about us. So it is not that truth we know. The truth we know, it is not truth. It is a truth that the ruling power will construct the truth about us. So it's more like power of knowledge or knowledge of power. Like there are some critique of colonial archaeology, like Moro Abadia. She has classified colonial discourse in three dominant ways. First, a romantic image of archaeological practice in colonized nations. So all this, colonial archaeologists, if you write any documentation done by colonial archaeologists about, maybe just take the case of Assam or maybe other places, you'll see that they have said that they will narrate in a way that suddenly, accidentally, they have traveled to the deep jungle and found and something like that. They will, in a beginning pages, beginning paragraphs, you will feel like romantic kind of feeling, that how excited he was and what kind of environment he was to discover the past. Is also one of the element of romanticism. So, second, omitted the connection between the consolidation of archaeology as a scientific disciplines and the colonialist expansion of the Western nations. And the third one, justified the appropriation of material culture from colonized space. So now I'll explain this three in little. The first one, which is the romantic image, there's one archaeologist, historiographer of archaeology, is called Bruce Tiger. In his word, that is a popular histories. A fabulous expedition, spectacular discoveries of disappeared civilization provided a romantic image of archaeology. In other words, archaeology was described as the story of discovery of monuments, cities, etc. The first point of Moro Abida, a romantic image of archaeological practice in colonized area, that Tigger explains this way as a popular histories. So all this colonial writing, we'll see it first 2-3 paragraphs. They will describe that how the expedition was fabulous, a spectacular discovery he has made, and all this blah blah thing will be there. And then the second one is that intentional omission of connection and political implication of scientific expedition in the colonized area. Thanks to this policy of colonial archaeologists, that we admire colonial collection of artifacts and they are stored in museum and private collection in Western countries. So there's an intentional omission of our past with the present, and that is how we do not bother about our past, which are preserved in the British Museum or maybe any other museum in the world that has been taken from us, because they already the connection have been omitted. So we do not feel that much to our. But now in the world, postmodern world, people are also conscious about bringing their past to their own area, and this process is already started. And I think recently in Australia and Africa, they have got some of the items which has been stored in British Museum and other museums. The third one is the most important piece of colonial discourse that is legitimize the preservation of cultures of colonized areas in museum in Western countries. That is a very important point, and all of us actually we have this kind of attitude when we go to the. I think if you go to the British Museum, you will see that there is huge collections of Asian artifacts. And when we see those Asian artifacts, we feel proud. We feel that wow, our items, our antiquities, our remains of our past has been gloriously exhibited in this museum, British Museum. We feel proud instead. But this is actually one way of also, kind of process of legitimization of taking items of artifacts or archaeological remains of a colonized area to their own space. Daniel admired this. Now one archaeologist who is in support of colonial archaeology, he admired this as a what is beyond dispute is that they have survived admirably in the British Museum, where they are now beautifully displayed. They would have suffered great damage if left in their original home. That is how the process of legitimization. So the uncountable collections colonial archaeologists and ethnographers made from colonial areas has legitimized. So now we do not have a right to say anything. Already they have disassociated us from the past, and second, they legitimize that as it is there in museum and somewhere in Western world, they are best preserved and best way they are there. So it is no need to come back to your own country. So having said and criticized all this, we totally cannot be denied that the past was rediscovered in colonial areas mainly by the colonial archaeologists. So we cannot deny this. As in the beginning I said that all colonial force they used to bring a group of academicians with them, or maybe ethnographers or evangelists, whatever you say. They used to bring with them, and they used to document and bring those. Write about the history, culture, geology, science, whatever it is a particular area in the Western journals and Western academia. So now in the archaeology of North India also came to the academic world because due to the colonial archaeologists. In Northeast India, colonial powers got up. See here, one point I want to emphasize that this is when we say that because of colonial archaeologists, the past of India came to the academic world. Which academic world? This academic world is created by the Westerners. But already in India, the heritage is already surviving, and still we are living with the heritage. That means we have knowledge about our heritage. We are living in a living heritage. This is only the outsiders who did not know about us. They wrote about us for their own understanding. But we know the area where we are. We are living with a continuous process where we are taught, we are living, we are touching, we are feeling, and we are enjoying with the heritage and the past. So in Northeast India, colonial powers got the opportunity very late to enter in 1826. That we all know that after Yandambu Treaty, that British got direct entry to Assam. Otherwise, they were trying their best by sending their agent to know about Northeast India several times. They have tried, and they came and they have documented, and all we know that what they have documented is not also the truth, because the best example of account of Assam by Francis Buchanan, what he has wrote, it is not entirely the truth. He did not know the knowledge, did not know the language of the people, and then whatever he collected information. Being in Gwalpara, he wrote about the Ahom dynasty of Upper Assam. So, and then whatever he being translated to him, he wrote. So, like that, there are many attempts being done, attempt being made to describe the past of Assam before 1826. But 1826, they got direct entry. So a gain of political and economic control in Northeast India was not much trouble for British colonial power. Rather, it was welcomed by the then ruling monarch. So see here, they did not need to struggle to get the political control about Assam. It was indirectly kind of invitation to come and help, and then they took over the charge of political power, of political economic power of Assam. So there is no struggle for the British power. That is why we do not see many examples of kind of colonial discourse in archaeological writings about Northeast India. But there are some, but not very prominent as we may find in Australia, or maybe of African archaeology, or maybe in some cases archaeology of mainland India. So easy control of power could be a reason that we do not find Assam in any of the archaeological expedition organized by the colonial institution or scholars. Here is the point. See, Archaeological Survey of India was established in 1861, and before that, Alexander Cunningham in 1806, if I'm not wrong. He has taken an expedition all over, we say all over India, but Northeast was excluded because Northeast was not their prime goal that time. And then before that, after in 1861, when it was archaeological survey of India was constituted and formed, there are many archaeological expedition and exploration was conducted, but Assam, not at that time it was Assam. Assam was never into that their framework of archaeological research because political power, political gain, economical gain already been established by this political power. Most of the early discoveries in the region were either by army. Now, if we see that discoveries of Northeast India, archaeological discovery of Northeast India, as well, most of the discoveries in the region were either by army officers or administrators without having training or much scientific knowledge about this discipline. So this was also a reason that most of the early discoveries of prehistoric tools only confined to the description of the tool and the native superstitious belief about it. So all the early discoveries of archaeological discoveries of Northeast India, it is kind of narrative of what superstitious beliefs are there and how the tool look like. So other than that, we don't find any other kind of description. Many other description we have some, but not so much on this on archaeological interpretation or archaeological discourse. And most of the discoveries, as historians of archaeology put it as a discovery, was the collection from the natives and purchased from the natives or gifted by natives or collected by force. So here, another very important point. This is not always that colonial archaeologists, they have done a very systematic archaeological exploration to collect or discover the past. Actually, most of the cases, it was the discovery, what they call it a discovery, is a gift by the natives. When they go to the village for native for administrative visits, they sometimes villagers gifted them, or they purchased from the natives in exchange of apim or kami, or then they took it by force. The earliest description of archaeological remains of Northeast India is on the ruins of temples located at Charidwar in Sunitpur district of Assam. That is so far as per I believe is as far I know is the earliest colonial description of archaeological remain. It is by G.E. Westmacott in 1835. He has documented the archaeological remains of Charidwar. Here, if you see the whole first three paragraphs I have mentioned in the beginning, he tried to explain that how romantic it is by this of discovering that remains in Charidwar. He says that he did not know, but accidentally his local guide has asked him to travel that way and that side, and he has traveled. He traveled by with that local guide, and then he saw this remains of temples in Haridwar, and then he tried to he included he as usual he documented, he prepared map and he prepared the sketches of the sculptures of this and the distribution of ruins in the landscape. He has done Westmacott. But here another important point of this Westmacott is that I think he has prepared is a map of distribution of archaeological ruins in Saidor area, and that is, well, I think as far my knowledge goes, is the earliest archaeological map of a particular area so far. If you see the historiographically, that is the earliest map of archaeological remains of Northeast India. So after Westmacott, there are many administrative officers like Delton, Foster, Gordon Austin. They tried to document the architectural remains of Assam, of Greater Assam of that time. And they have a similar way. They try to, when they document, they always get surprised to see that suddenly see those things, and then they try to interpret or try to interpret the remains with the help of locals. They have to get information from the locals, or they will engage somebody to translate some of the local text available around the surrounding areas, and they will take information from those, and they will write about that ruins. And now, in that sense, I do not know those who are dealing with, postmodernism, modernism, postmodernism, or maybe post-processualism, where they believe that, truth is actually, very relative. You cannot call it what you know is a truth. It may not be truth. It's a construct. Truth is a construct. So maybe that is how these people, this early colonial archaeologists, who they also, by this process, they try to construct the truth about that particular area, and that truth has been presented in the Western world. So anyway, this effort made by British officials brought to light three categories of monuments that also we have to appreciate, because the coin always having two sides. You just cannot keep on seeing only one side only. So then beauty of having a coin will get lost. So anyway, so there are other good part is that these efforts made by British officials brought three categories of monuments. The first category includes the temple ruins of early period of Kamrup. The second category includes the temples of Ahom kings. The third category includes ruins of forts temple. Third category includes ruins of forts and temples of tribal kings like those of Kasaris. Now here we have classified in three categories just to systemize the knowledge to present in a academic world. But I think all who are from this part, we all know that maybe this kind of three categories of temples remain being existed. So the moral of the story, what I mean to say is that, you know uh, anyway, I think at the end I will come to this. So this was also the phase where we witnessed the insertion of idea of influence on the art and architecture of the region. Now here, very interesting. We do not have presence of art and architecture as we have in the mainland India, but we have some. But compared to mainland India, we have very less. But even though that colonial archaeology, colonial writers or colonial evangelists, they they have seen influence on it. So now here, Godwin Austen, when he was writing about the brick gateway of Kosari remains, he praised the architect of our beautifully designed ark. In Dimapur, that whoever has seen this Rajabari area, you can see there is a brick gate and arches there. So here he expressed that the arts reflect the Islamic influence, but however, the nature of Islamic influence, he did not and he explained. So now he has already, now see, here is the, we can say the trick. He has already put this influence, the idea of influence. Whatever they have made, maybe it is they do not have that knowledge of constructing this, but they have got influence, that knowledge from something superior. Here they are not bringing superior from the Western world, but within India or India itself. And here in India, that time the superior was the Mughals. So yeah, they are bringing that concept of in Islamic influence, but he left it without explaining how it is. So here, as this approach of modernist approach, all they see in a a kind of very, what it called, grand narrative about the past. Now the second idea of influence is by Foster, when he was describing a temple in Joysagar. Joysagar Joydeol, Joydeol is one of the best carved temple on outer walls of the temple. He says that this kind of beautiful carvings on the walls of the temple is not possible by the native artists. He says that it looked like imagination of influence based on European. He said, let me read the exact sentence. He claims of European influence is nothing but an imagination of influence based on creation visuals. Sorry, I just doing something wrong. Foster idea of hand over European architect, or who was very much familiar with the European decorative art on a temple in Joysagar. However, his claim of European influence is nothing but an imagination of influence based on creation of visual similarities. So he says that those whatever beautiful carving is there on the temple walls of Joysagar, of Joydeol, it is maybe a hand of, he's not saying that this directly European artist came from the Europe. He said that it looked like there's a hand of European artists there, but he did not explain that how it is. That's a level of imagination. So this is in another way you can see that consciously or maybe unconsciously, that idea of culturally superior or culturally inferior, they are surprised to see that how this kind of beautiful beautiful curving that can be seen in the Western world is also there in a remote places like this, where they are establishing their colonies. So now let me move to the other thing, discovery of prehistoric remains of in Northeast India. you know the prehistoric archaeology of northeast India is as old as in the mainland India, which was started in 1864. And in 1867 we have the Captain Lute Still, who for the first time discovered and reported Neolithic tools from Upper Assam near Dibrugarh. So he Captain Still wrote a letter to his friend Mr. Ferrari of Harrow, who was also a friend of Sir John Lubbock. So here also we have to see that this is not only colonial archaeologists, but those archaeologists who are still writing the historiography of Northeast India of present time. They are also still in colonial legacy. They are not able to come out from that legacy of kind of authoritative kind of knowledge. So here if you see in this in this discovery of Neolithic tools from Northeast India, many of the recent or maybe recent or some of the historiography writings in past few years after independence, you'd see that they are all like to write that Sir John Lubbock discovered, Sir John Lubbock reported. So I do not know for what purpose they write this way, or they maybe like to write this way because they think that Sir John Lubbock was father of prehistoric archaeology in Northeast India, and father of prehistoric archaeology of Europe. And if they pull the name of this authoritative person in their writing, maybe something different may come out. I don't know what abstract idea is there. But Sir John Lubbock directly, he has wrote and mentioned in his writing that it is not he who discovered, but he has sent the abstract of the letter of Captain Lute Still to the Etchnam, which was that time in early 19th century, was one of the very reputed journals of social science, or all kind of disciplines, not only social science, because scientific articles also used to be published in Latinium. So he declares that this is by Captain Lute Still who discovered it, and then the letter was written to Lute's friend, and then Lute's friend was also friend of Sir John Lubbock, and that is how Sir John Lubbock got the letter, and Sir John Lubbock sent the abstract of that letter to the Atenum. So it is actually very clear. But anyway, but still we are some of us are still in the colonial legacy, so we try to write it in that way. Anyway, so in that writing, what initially I said, that there is tools are discovered, and then narration about the tools, and then what native people they think about it. More beyond that, we do not have anything here in this letter also by Captain Still. And then that also Sir John Lubbock gave the seal over it. He says that this tool is supernatural, that local believe that is a supernatural thing. It has fallen from the sky, or has medicinal properties, or something like that. So same way. And then third important thing about this discovery is that there is no description about discovery. It is actually not discovery. This is actually gifted to Lute's friend in Dibrugarh by one Naga, Namsangi Naga, that means in the Konyak area. And then his boy was playing with this tool, and then the Lubbock Still was having some knowledge about geology and prehistory, and he saw and identified this as a prehistoric tool. Otherwise, there is no contextual discovery. What I mean to say is that all prehistoric discovery of Northeast India during the colonial period there is no context. This is stary finds. They have somebody either gifted or they have collected. Subsequently, there are many others like Steele, Baron, Austin, Middlecott, Baron, Hutton, Mills and Hutton, Walker. They have discovered many tools once it has come to the light Western world that Assam is also rich in the prehistory, this group of administrator engaged in a different hills area, they started their mission of discovering stone tools. And they have discovered stone tools from Meghalaya, reported stone tool from Meghalaya, Nagaland, Dima Hasao, Arunachal. And all these are not actually result of a systematic exploration. These are only for collection from either from market or either from somebody's house or somebody has gifted. So there's no context. There's no context of discovery. So far we have failed to provide its context. They have failed to provide its context, but they just presented, they just reported, and that by that we know that okay, prehistoric remains are there. So there are no context. Interestingly, their effort of reporting and publicizing those in reputed journals even could not motivate the colonial government to initiate a systematic archaeological expedition in the region, rather either under an individual organization like Archaeological Survey of India that was operational in mainland India since 1861. Now here is the question. See, architecture remains been discovered, prehistoric remains been discovered, but yet the government body under colonial government did not show any interest to initiate archaeological exploration and expedition in Northeast India. So here is a question: why they have not started? So this is a big question. So this question may be answered in two way. First is that maybe the power game is done, so they no need to manipulate the knowledge to gain the power. So second is that maybe they are whatever the administrator are individually doing, they consider this a good enough. No need to spend more money on this. So I'll come this point also, how they are restricted to spend money on archaeology of Northeast India when I'll come to the context of Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. This may be due to the effortless control of the power that needed no help of knowledge of power. See, why they have not initiated any archaeological expedition in Northeast India, though they have discovered archaeological remains since 1835, because this effortless control of power that needed no help of knowledge of power. Thus, archaeological findings merely become an object for a museum of collection. That is why whatever going on as a collection, let it go. So it is whatever they're collecting, this colonial administrators, all they're collecting as an artifact, and those are going to the museums of outside the India, or museum of Western countries. We have a huge collection of colonial artifact in Peterborough's museums than the British museums. So. There are one or two exceptional efforts that try to provide insight into the prehistory of archaeology of Assam by the colonial administrator. One is by Hutton in 1928 in his article called Prehistory of Assam. Here, first time we see some kind of interpretive archaeology trying to interpret the material. So far it is collection. So here he tried to interpret, and what he came up, his conclusion, he said that whatever archaeological prehistoric material we have here in Northeast India, maybe it is a result of influence from Southeast Asian countries. This is the first time where they have we have this idea of Southeast Asian influence of archaeology of Northeast India, and then later on, and this is as a legacy, it's still we are in this idea of Southeast Asian influence of Northeast Indian archaeology. And then he also says that South Indian prehistoric influence is also there in the prehistoric tool of Assam, but which is now so far totally refuted and denied. But still we are in the Southeast Asian influence of prehistory of Northeast India. Indeed, he was the first one to promote the theory of influence connection, mainly from the east, on the prehistory of Assam. The idea continues as colonial legacy till now. The second one is Mills Assam as a field for research in 1933. This has much reputation in the historical archaeology of the region due to his constructive suggestions on studying Assam's past. Those were indeed serious advice given to Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti, which was established by some of the progressive nationalist Assamese intellectuals. But ironically, Mills, who had immense knowledge on the archaeology of Assam and being in the administration, could not instrumentalize his suggestions himself, nor he could inspire the colonial government to act on it. He could provide suggestions intellectually to an organization formed by locals under colonial government without any financial help. This is actually kind of when you go through all this condition, and when you go through the Mill's work and this paper of Assam as a field of research, where he cries that the massive tool of archaeology spade still to be used in Assam to discover the past of Assam. When you go through and read his paper, you feel like that the person who was there in the power and who was the administrator and who was having a powerful position in the colonial government, he himself could not do anything, but he is advising to a organizations who are self-funded and formed by a local intellectual. So this is kind of colonial irony you can see. Now let us come to Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti and nationalism. Then I will move down to the little bit of postmodernism approach, how we should initiate in case of Northeast India. So Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti and the nationalism and the echo of nationalism, not actually nationalism, but you can see the echo of nationalism among the writers and the members of Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. The Samiti, as you all know, that is 1912 it was established, and they used to publish an annual report known as Journal of Assam Research Society, and then later on it is now become Journal of Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti. And if you are interested on see the progress of writing from the first volume to the last volume, I think all must visit the office beside the Assam State Museum. They have the office and they have the old copies there. So many of the Assamese intellectuals like K.L. Borua, P.D. Bhattacharya, and K. Bhattacharya, S.C. Goswami, Sarveshwar Kagadi used to regularly publish their research in this journal. So these journals was a platform for the local intellectuals, because whatever they are writing, they are getting either getting chance, or maybe they are not publishing in the Western journals, but they have these journals generally gave a platform to write the locals whatever they have seen, know, and have to write and publish immediately. So these journals has created a platform for the all who wants to know the past and write about their own past wherever. But instead of the like Journal of Royal Aesthetic Society or Journal of Ireland and Royal Ireland British Anthropological Society of Ireland, if you see a whole colonial archaeologists only they are writing about our past, where the local historians or local intellectuals hardly they used to publish. So these journals they acted as one of the platform for them. The Samiti even tried to extend their effort to field-based studies. In the prospectus of Samiti, it was said that the Samiti undertook tours to the places of historical and archaeological interest to inspect and collect the past antiquities. Such tours aim to collect antiquities and to place them in a museum to display the history of the region by the collected tangible heritage. So they even gone through this level that they proposed for excavations in Guwahati in 1916. But this proposal they have sent to government, colonial government, and colonial government has forwarded this proposal to Eastern Circle. And then it was rejected on the ground that excavations in a place like Guwahati may be futile and waste of money. So this is, see one of the attitude of government, how calculative they are to invest money or to reveal the history of particular area. So if Guwahati being excavated in that time, probably the condition of the Ambari ruins would have been much bigger than what we have today. Or maybe the architectural remain we have near old jail area in Pan Bazar would have been much different than today. So and then they also tried. They have collected a lot of artifact antiquities were lying just like that in the villages and by somebody's household. The members of Kamrup Anushan Summit, they collected and then they asked monetary help from the government, colonial government, to establish a museums. But the government, they did not. Accept their proposal, but government encouraged their effort of doing it, but did not deny to give monetary help to construct a museum. So, but then committee also that did not, go down. They collected money by themselves and they established a museum, and which is now the state museum. And later, after independent government has taken over, and made Assam State Museum. So here you see the contradiction. So some locals are doing some work of their own history, but that there is no support from the government, from the colonial government. Whereas the administrative officers, they are writing, they are visiting, they are writing, they are publishing in their own uncontrolled manner. There's no government control over it. But here, when the locals are trying to write about their own history, there are there is no support from the government. Even if the person who was working with the government for a long time on the ethnography and heritage of Assam, he did not do anything, but he has advised the Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti to implement the excavation and exploration in Assam. So now, and then the other point is that when Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti was established in 1933, 1933 or 1935, if I'm not wrong, government has, established one other organization called, Antiquarian Studies. This when, so where first was. That was a government support when already one organization was established by local intellectual that they did not appreciate, but a department of antiquarian studies been established by the government in 1935, where they have the same goal, where to collect the heritage, to preserve the heritage and protect the heritage. So here you can see the contradiction of the government do not want to give the control to a self-made group of local group to write about their own history, but they want to have control about the writing the history. So that I think if you go through the prospectus of Department of Antiquarian Studies and the Kamrup Anusandhan Samiti, if you go through the carefully all the volumes, you can find out these contradictions. So ASI and the routine archaeological work. So, ASI, as I told you, in 1861 it was established, but there is no major work been conducted here. But, there are some routine works been done when Eastern Circle of Archaeological Survey of India was established in Calcutta. They have just came up and whatever temples being reported and existed, they used to just routinely clean up and protect it. Other than that, they have not done any work till recently, very serious archaeological exploration or expedition here in Northeast India. So, if I hold whatever I spoke so far, if I summarize those things, though archaeological interest began in India as early as in 14th century, Northeast India has to wait till the middle of 18th century. Such a late beginning of archaeological interest in Northeast India was due to the fact that it did not form a part of colonial rule till 1826. Annexation of then Assam in 1826 by the British colony was a turning point in the political scenario of Assam, and this indeed made the path for the colonial evangelists and ethnographers to enter the region for their interest. The officers, mainly artillery officers deposited in Assam, took the initiative to explore and report archaeological remains in their interest. They could collect information during their travel to different parts of Assam and made a point to visit and verify the information obtained from locals. Though they were not trained professionals in archaeological studies, they could provide a detailed description of ruins and artifacts, their geographical location and nature, function and quality and constructions. The early reports may not have much historical and archaeological narration in them, but sufficient to bring out the ruins to the academic circle, Western academic circle. These early colonial reports hardly show any symptom of imperialist ideology in projecting the past of the Northeast India, because as I told you that There is it is effortless gain of Assam. So there is no play of power of knowledge or thing kind of thing. The establishment of Karum Anusandhan Committee in 1912 was the turning point in the archaeological studies of Northeast India. It was an extraordinary effort by the Assamese intellectual to establish this committee, and many local intellectuals came up to engage themselves in the search of history and archaeology of Assam. The local intellectual like K.L. Borua emphasized the use of archaeology to write history of the region, and he further emphasized that the history of the region can be pushed back to the early period. Efforts were also made to establish historical links of Assam with that of India by the Assamese intellectual through the narration of archaeological remains. Many discoveries on temple ruins, sculptures, coins, epigraphy were made by the numbers of were made by the members of the committee. Now, here in this points, I just like to emphasize is that see here 2 points here where nationalists trying to associate the culture of Assam with the mainland India, but where in the beginning and the colonial archaeologists they're trying to disassociate our disassociate with us with the mainland, but they try to associate us with Southeast Asia in case of prehistory. So these are the some of the point that contradictory point that we have to understand when we will understand when we'll read all the writings very carefully, not as a writing but the ideology of contemporary time, the political ideology of contemporary time. Since the establishment of the Archaeological Survey of India, Northeast India was always neglected in its agenda of exploration and excavation. Only after the establishment of the Eastern Circle in 1889 at Calcutta, they showed interest only in preservation and conservation work of the region's historical and archaeological remains. Archaeology as an academic discipline in Assam grew only after the establishment of Guwahati University in 1948. The Department of Anthropology, under the leadership of M.C. Goswami, took initiative to methodologically and systematically explore the archaeology of the region. The contribution of the department is immense in adding several facets of the archaeology of the region. Now, if you categorize those, first is that it brought a methodological and empirical approach to archaeological studies. Second, they conducted the first ever systematic archaeological excavations in 1861. See, in 1916, KS has given, Kamrup Anusandhan Committee has given proposal for excavation, but it did not happen. It had to wait more than 50 years to have a first excavation in 1861. The third provided a stratigraphic context to Neolithic cultures, where during the colonial period, all the tools are stereo discovery from here and there. There's no context in a deposit. Archaeological findings has to have a context to understand its finding and the associated cultures. But here, during the colonial time, it was not there. But here, the establishment of Guwahati University, we could relate the tools with a stratigraphic context. Fourth, established cultural links of prehistoric Northeast India with the East and Southeast Asia. Here, again, I know based on the material remains, M.C. Goswami and T.C. Sarmah, they propose of East and Southeast Asian affinity, but now it is another debate whether actually it is how far that influence is true or false. Fifthly, knowledge of the archaeology of Northeast India enriched with the systematic exploration and trial excavations, because M.C. Goswami and T.C. Sarmah, they have explored Naga Hills, Garo Hills, and Dima Hasao and Meghalaya area. So a systematic exploration been initiated. We have a large number of evidence about the past. Now, let us come to post-independent phase here, where we can, though as I told in the beginning, still we are waiting for postmodernist approach of archaeology of Northeast India. But whatever during the post-independent phase, the archaeological research initiated by M.C. Goswami and T.C. Sarmah, somehow we can call it as a processual archaeology to some extent. That they have started very objective history, systematic and scientific exploration in the past, and somehow we can call it, a very authoritarian narration of the past. Why I will say is that even influence of the authoritative knowledge in explaining the past or in construction of the archaeology of past of Northeast India is very much visible since 1970s actually, when T.C. Sarmah and M.C. Goswami both got MPhil degrees from Institute of Archaeology, London. So they have learned the archaeological techniques and method from there, and they came up and they have initiated exploration, excavation in their own caliber. And then by this time in India, archaeology, modern archaeology was also in the force, and the father of modern archaeology, Professor S.D. Sankalia, from Deccan College, he has initiated series of excavation exploration, and he was trying to establish a whole chronology of India. And now in 1970s, when Sankalia visited Northeast India in mainly Garo Hills and Kamrup, he has proposed whole chronology of Northeast India, just visiting 2 places, and that chronology is almost representation of as a pan-level Indian. So, a kind of authoritarian narration of the past of this region. There's no plurality of ideas. Whatever you have done in some other places, then you are trying to make it as a whole totality. You are trying to describe this. So, and then Guwahati University under M.C. Goswami and T.C. Sarmah, there are several. They have done PhD degrees on prehistory of Northeast India mainly. And if you see that there is no change of idea, whatever being proposed by M.C. Goswami and T.C. Sarmah, from Paleolithic to Mesolithic, Neolithic to Paleolithic to in Paleolithic having 3 parts: Upper Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic, Lower Paleolithic, then Mesolithic to Neolithic. That you do not see in their research, you do not, the PhD researchers, you do not see a kind of a challenge or a kind of coming out of the box. What you will see, that you can see that a kind of effort of establishing the fact which has been placed in front of them. They are trying to establish those things, and with the idea of African archaeology or maybe European archaeology, they're trying to classify the tools of Paleolithic, whatever they call as a tool. That's the prehistoric assemblies from Northeast India, mainly from Garo Hills. They're trying to classify those which having an idea of African and the European terminology and European classification of tools. So here, understanding of different is not there. They're seeing everything as the same, and here the absence of plurality is there. So this is also main theme of postmodernism, that plurality of idea has to be there. But so far that still in the archaeology of Northeast India we don't find there. We find that authoritative kind of thing. So now, there are, Cliff in 1991, he suggested that postmodernist perspectives could make a 3 positive contribution to archaeology. So he said that postmodernism forces archaeologists to examine critically their social, moral, emotional involvement with the study of the past in the present, and thus to consider how the general public interact with the past. So this is also very important. Second, postmodernism calls into questions the validity of reading all the archaeological publications as the fact sheets, and instead implies that such fact sheets should be regarded as expressions of specific cultural historic attitudes of the past. So here, the point I was telling, that whatever previous, in the beginning phase, M.C. Goswami or T.C. Sarmah or Sankalia has been proposed, still some of the students of him, or maybe us also now, we are taking as a fact sheets, and we are not trying to come out from the fact sheets, and still we are trying to follow this. So if we want to know the cultural plurality of the past, we have to come out from the fact sheets. We have to come out from the idea of authoritative kind of fact. So we have to think from individually what you can see the material you have in front of us. So that is what we don't know. We are from many years we are trying to do on the Mishimagiri artifact, and we are trying to do experiment from ourselves with one of my colleagues, and we are trying to understand the flakes tools from ourselves, not by seeing something from European or maybe African or maybe whatever done previously. Basic terminology though we need to have, but whole tech process of process of having a Neolithic tool. We are trying to understand, being part of that itself. So the third point is that postmodernism encourages multiple views of the past and promotes greater awareness of the experience of women, non-elites, and ethnic minorities in the past. So these are actually, we are still missing this kind of approach in the archaeology of Northeast India. But what we say that still, after colonial approach of archaeology, still after the post-independent phase, we are having, we are living in many facets of many kind of approaches of archaeology. Some are still doing cultural approach history, cultural approach history. Some are still doing, they're trying to identify the present with the past very directly without having any evidence. And then some are doing, kind of new archaeology, and some are doing descriptive archaeology. So still, archaeology of Northeast India, the archaeology community of Northeast India, very less who are doing hardcore archaeology. But sometimes, archaeological writing can be done when you report. Anybody can do it. But when you go through a systematic manner, there are very less communities. There are very less group. A few number of archaeologists are there. But still, we are not fixed to any kind of theories or ideas. That is also a concept of postmodernism, because plurality of ideas has to be there, and you have to derive your truth from this plurality of ideas, not from one. So now at the end, truth is construct, and relative, and past is defined by the present knowledge. Hence, truth about the past is a construct by present and relative too. So now I end it here. Whatever I think I could make little sets about this from the beginning, how the colonial. I think there are maybe some questions are there. I could see.
Yes, sir. Yes, we will proceed to that then. Uh, Sir has come to an end of this beautiful lecture. It's been more than an hour, but it was splendid listening to him. How he has pressed on the colonial narrative and brought in the Foucauldian idea of knowledge power game, which he often talks about. We have been hearing this. I have been hearing this past many years from him, the knowledge power game, and he has been beautifully imbibing this into the Northeastern history as well. This brings us to the end of the lecture. We will now proceed to the next activity, which is responses from the participants. We have one question from Siari De Burma. She, or I don't know, I think he. Sir, I am from Tripura. As you have said, Neolithic tools were found in Upper Assam. Is it also possible that we may find Neolithic tools in Tripura?
You are already having Neolithic tools in Tripura, near Sonai River area, that are there. I think Professor Ramesh, he discovered in 1970s or 80s, and he did PhD from Guwahati University. So their dates are also there from Sonai River. I think they are claiming beyond Neolithic, they are claiming Paleolithic from fossil wood. So it is there in Tripura.
Right, sir. It's actually another statement from one of our faculty members, Kavita Sharma ma'am. She says, very interesting and informative, but which one is true and which one is not? More scientific methods are needed to find out the history. Thank you, sir. So of course we need more scientific methods to find out the history, and history again keeps on. Yeah.
What is truth for me? It may not be truth for me. It's very difficult. The difference of perspective is there. So it's all a game of the relative. But we need to have a method. When we do academic discipline, we cannot do it without having a method, and that is how some of there are critics of postmodernist approach. They say that this is like fancy idea, postmodernism fancy idea, because there are so many ideas in postmodernism. It's different from each other. So they are kind of, we need to have some method, but ultimately it's very difficult to tell the truth. Best example, we say that today I am saying this is today's Tuesday, no? Today's Tuesday, right? Somewhere in the globe it is Monday. So it is not universal truth. And we are saying that every day sun rise from east and west, and Antarctica and all this is different idea. So it is a relative truth. So it is depend the perspective, how you see it, how you describe it, and how you understand it. So So that is why when people do backbiting about me, I don't bother about it. It's okay, no problem. Yeah, it's fine. Maybe he sees that way. Where is the problem? That's fine. So that is also the beauty of postmodernism. Anyway, I think I could make some sense about it, and I don't say that whatever I said is correct, because what I understood I said, and my understanding is much important for me to develop my ideas. So, and that is why I would like to, have a, if you want to write, tell, or advise, sorry, give suggestions or have a discussion, you can mail me like in this. I'll type it. Okay.
Sure, sir. Yeah, so it's for all the participants who are here right now. Sir has texted his mail ID. Anybody wanting to talk with him or have this good discussion with him on postmodernism,
Yeah.
on any form of archaeological understanding, might do so. With that note, we should now proceed. We are almost reaching an end, and need to conclude the webinar today. We'll now proceed to the next and the last but not the least activity of the day. We have the vote of thanks to be delivered by Deepak Kolita sir. He is the HOD and the coordinator of the HSMLS lecture series. I request sir to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible now, also, ma'am?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. Thank you, Suman, for giving me the opportunity. Actually, we are technically challenged today evening, but all went good by the grace of God. Respected Vice Principal, Morina College, Dr. Hemolata Sarmah, Madam. Respected resource person, Dr. Tilak Thakuria, sir. Respected our former resource person, Komal Hokia, sir. Respected teachers of Morgaon College, respected research scholars from different part of Northeast India, uh, and members of Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series, uh, respected family members, Dr. Sarvasi Sodri ma'am, and my student friends. Good evening to all of you. On this wonderful evening, it gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks to all dignitaries assembled here. We take this golden opportunity to thank the respected chief patron and patron of this lecture series, Professor Zogen Chandra Kolita and Dr. Ilakanda Bodhakur, for their valuable suggestion and encouraging in organizing this event. I extend my gratitude to respected patron and this different. Thank you all. I would like to thank our Vice Principal, Dr. Hemolata Sarmah, ma'am, for inaugurating this session. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for spend valuable time with us. I extend my gratitude to respected resource person, Dr. Tilak Thakuria, sir, Assistant Professor, Department of History and Archaeology, Northeastern Hill University, Tura campus. We learn a lot of things from you about the archaeology, development of archaeology in Northeast India, the Eurocentric view of the colonial rulers, and post-colonial development and its and the contribution of um, archaeology in the reconstruction history of Northeast India. As you know that literature is very much limited. Literary sources is very limited. So we have to depend on archaeological sources for reconstruction history of Northeast India. So archaeology is very important, especially in the Northeast India. Thank you, sir, for giving us a lot of information in this session. Next, I would like to thank all the members of IQAC and the coordinator of IQAC, Dr. Ranjit Kumar Kolita, sir, for giving us support. Next, I would like to thank Mr. Bulbul Das and Jointo Kumar Das, Assistant Professor of Department of Computer Application and Assistant Professor of Department of Geography for technical support. Thank you. I would like to thank all the members of Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series and my colleagues of Moregaon College. And I would like to thank the teachers, all the teachers, research scholars, and the students participated in this session. Last but not least, I thank my department and colleagues, Suman Das, Ras Vallabh Nath, Nikhil Deka, for their support and the hard work. Thank you all. Over to you, Suman. Suman, unmute your mic.
I got it. Thank you so much, sir, for your vote of thanks. We have now come to an end of another beautiful lecture, the fifth lecture of the series, Himangsu Sarmah Memorial Lecture Series, with Tilak sir giving a splendid presentation on the colonial discourse, on the post-colonial history or archaeology of Northeast India, rather. With that positive note, with that lot of elements of knowledge that we have gathered today, and with the hope that we will meet again in the next month with another such brainstorming session, we would like to conclude this particular webinar today. And thank you so much, Sir Tilak sir, once again.
Suman, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Suman,
Yes,
hello?
yes,
Hello, Suman.
yes, please.
Just 1 minute. Kamal sir, আপোনাক বহুত বহুত ধন্যবাদ আপুনি জয়েন কৰিছে মই ক'ব পাহৰি থাকিলো মানে একদম আই এম এক্সট্ৰিমলি সৰি থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার Okay,
may I take a moment, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Kamal Sokia sir, apuni say yate online session. So may I request you to share a few words to share a few words with us on your responses on today's session. So if you are listening,
thank you. Good evening to all of you, and particularly I could listen to.
We are honored, sir, to have you here. Thank you so much for joining.
I could listen to a very illuminating lecture, Dr. Thakuria, actually, and perhaps I was not fortunate enough to listen to it from the very beginning. I was a bit late. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are
Yes, sir.
The points I could remember, I could just register. Really interesting because the idea of a postmodernist approach, which has been quite of late being used in different fields of epistemology, and particularly in history, it was really nice to listen to Dr. Thakuria that this is a challenging area, obviously. Postmodernism is no longer postmodernism because must have been talked about that particular field or as a theory, as an epistemological tool to the understanding of history, literature, or different disciplines of humanities. But still, in this part of Northeast India, so far our history, culture, society, all these things are concerned. Yes, we have to have some fresh insight into the established notions and ideas. That is quite challenging, no doubt, but rejection of authoritative versions, be it history, literature, or any narrative so far. That itself is a very welcome challenge to us, because unless we do that, perhaps fresh ideas, fresh grounds will not be cleared for us. And Dr. Thakuria has very nicely demonstrated that archaeology being so essential a part in our understanding of history, our past, but that has been very much fitted with a sort of colonial bias. And we know that how power, politics, and all these things have become messed with the entire epistemological exploration, etc. Still, there is we feel that the idea he has shared with us and the insight he has put into the area, obviously it can help us to have a kind of a rethinking, reframing of the domain that we have been associated with. I'm really very much delighted to have listened to Dr. Thakuria, and this is, of course, I am not directly involved in this particular domain. Still, whatever idea I could gather in this evening, really it was nice, and I thank once again Dr. Thakuria, and particularly I am see that the in memory of Dr.
There is probably some issue with his network.
Interruption.
Because a few months back I had the opportunity to visit Morrigan. Student then, he was of course almost an emerging scholar in this field. We wanted to have so much of good ideas, good feedback, good research in this field from Dr. Himangsu Sarmah. And this series of webinars, series of lectures that have been organized in honor, in memory of Dr. Himangsu Sarmah, let it continue. And I appreciate the initiative being adopted by the academic fraternity of Morrigan College. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for your kind words. It's always a pleasure listening to you also. Uh, we have a notification here where Bulbul Das, our technical assistant, who has helped us through all the technicalities of this session, has actually given us a feedback form, and I request all the participants here to kindly fill up the feedback form for us. It will be very, very beneficial for all of us here and the organizers of the group as well. Should I just conclude, ma'am? Should I just conclude here, or is there anything else?
No, yeah,
Yeah,
before you conclude, even I would like to express my thanks.
Yes, sure, sir, sure, sir.
For giving this chance to share my my ideas, that what I'm doing from last 5 years. Still, I am in the middle way, because I don't want to write a very narrative kind of historiography of archaeology of Northeast India, but I'm collecting information from last 5-6 years, and one day hopefully I'll come up with a small monograph. And as Professor Kamal Sarkis has said, it's very difficult. Yes, it's very difficult to talk about postmodernism and all. Very challenging in case of Northeast India, because it has not started. Though it is now postmodernism is there. Not only postmodernism, postmodernism is there, but still, in case of archaeology, we have not started post-processual archaeology in Northeast India. Now, really, it's very challenging to bring out the discipline like archaeology in theoretical framework. Whatever work so far has been done in archaeology of Northeast India, it's very difficult to just bring in a theoretical framework to write a historiography of this region. But yes, as Professor Soikia said, that we have to also, the time has come that we have to challenge the authoritarian knowledge, because we have to come out, because we have to, otherwise we cannot have a plurality of idea if we keep following only the authoritative kind of knowledge. I many times in seminars and all, I see that many of the MPhil scholars and PhD scholars, they come up with a presentation only just to say what previous scholars has said, and what he or she has nothing to either to describe, criticize, or refute or support. So from these notions we have to come out now. We have to think that whatever we know, I know. So I have to explain what I know. So we don't need to stick to this fact sheet kind of ideas anymore. Anyway, thank you very much to all of you for giving me this chance and opportunity. Hope to see you sometime in person in somewhere in Morrigan College. Or maybe some of you can visit us Nehu sometime. If I organize something, I'll send an invitation to all of you. Thank you very much.
That's really so sweet of you, sir. And of course, we will definitely meet in physically here in Morrigan College as well, if time permits and we have an opportunity to meet, of course. With that, note, we will today conclude today's webinar here. And thank you everyone for your kind and patient hearing. We have had a splendid evening. And with that note, we'll meet again in the next month, again with another resource person, another splendid evening. We'll now conclude our session here today. Thank you so much again. Good night.